What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Soulblaze speaking. I've been on holiday, I've been graduating, doing all that fun stuff, but we're back. Today we will be doing a Pokemon Draft League Spotlight LC edition like we used to do, but before we get into the video, I need you guys to go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. You know what to do. Ring that post notification bell, all that good stuff, and without any further ado, let's get right into business. So today, our subject of choice is Abra. If you don't know who Abra is, you've been sleeping under a rock for the past, for as long as Pokemon has been a thing. Abra is Gen 1, you know what I'm saying? So, Abra is really strong in Little Cup. So let's just start right there. The tools that it can have is making it first pick worthy, like completely off the bat. If you're first up, you should probably be considering Abra because not only does it have great abilities to choose between Synchronize, which, you know, if it gets status, it transfers that status over. Inner Focus, which, you know, there's prevalent fake out users in Little Cup like Meowth, and so on and so forth. We have a Palm as well, that likes to use Stab, Technician, Fake Out, that do a lot of damage and gain momentum like that. You take the damage, but then you have a chance to kill in return. You give up on the third and probably greatest ability that Abra has, Magic Guard, for it, but it's something to, you know, it's some tech that you can bring still. But the reason Abra is really godlike is because of this hidden ability, Magic Guard, which, if you don't know, negates damage from indirect attacks, which basically means that every damaging move or anything that does damage to it that's not a direct attack does not do damage. Sandstorm Chip doesn't take it. Stealth Rock hazards doesn't take it. Spikes, same as spikes and toxic spikes, not affected. Hail, not affected by that. It's also not affected by burn damage, poison damage, you know, all that fun stuff, which means you can kind of use the ability to your favor really strongly to get to gain ahead. And not only that, but you have great tools and a long selection of lists between moves you can use here. We have some sets to display here, but not only that, it's one of the very few Pokemon who has 19 speed if invested correctly. You can choose to go minus attack, or you can choose to go minus defense, because you have 15 defense as it is. You're not going to really kind of savor that. You're not going to, you know, save anything. You're not going to save the Pokemon by investing in it, so you might as well put that as minus as well in some situations. If you want to use attack, we'll get more into that later. So let's go over the first sets that I have, and let's talk about some other options as well. So the first set that I have is a Focus Sash Abra. Because you don't take damage from indirect attacks, it's much easier to keep your Focus Sash alive, because it tends to get broken by stuff like Sandstorm damage, set up Stealth Rocks and it's gone, all that good stuff, right? So, which you normally do to chip out sashes, but not in Abra's case, because you have to hit it with a direct attack, and if you don't switch in directly, you can spare it as a great revenge killer. It comes in, and the only thing that's basically gonna make sure that the Focus Sash is not gonna work is if it's knocked off at some point, if you take direct damage, or if you're struck by some kind of multi-hit move, something like Fury Attack, something like Bullet Seed, you know, stuff that hits multiple times, that makes sure that Focus Sash doesn't proc from full HP. But there's a lot of cases where Focus Sash is going to be really useful for basically getting becomes a get out of jail free card, where in your rough spot, you know you can take a hit and you can dish the damage back, and you're probably faster unless they're like Scarf or Speed Boosted, or you're in Trick Room or some kind of stuff like that. So that's a really good set right there. Highly recommended. You could also, instead of going Dazzling Gleam, you could also go like Counter, because you know you survive a hit. That's going to be a lot of damage guaranteed. If it's a physical attack, you know that's coming. You get a lot of damage guaranteed on. You can basically kill a threat right off the bat like that. But there's just so many options that you have with Abra. That's just one of many. The other set I want to talk about is Life Orb Magic Card, because Life Orb has this condition to where it gives you a boost of 30% on your moves, but in return, as attacks, it kind of takes, you know, 1/10 of your max HP, which is not that much in LC, especially if you run 19 HP. That specifically because it just takes one. It's some kind of function there with some mathematics that makes it take one HP for every time Life Orb ticks, so it's not that much, but Magic Guard actually lets Life Orb give you the boost while negating the damage. It's considered indirect damage, so it blocks it, which is really useful. And that just means you're going to be firing off stab psychics and stab shadow balls and dazzling gleams and energy ball for those tanky water types and onyxes and, you know, all that good stuff. So you really have a lot of firepower with that life orb boost, and you don't take the damage, which is really nice. You don't have the security of the focus sash, but you're already 19 speed and you have a lot of offensive momentum like that. So on this set particularly, I suggest if you want to bait dark types like Poniard and stuff like that, you can use life orb submission with attack investment. That's gonna OHKO a lot of Poniard variants, I'm sure. And then you also have Fire Punch, which you can also run. That's gonna take care of the pesky Pharaoh Seed, that you usually struggle with hitting. You don't take Iron Barb's damage from hitting it on the physical side either, because that's also indirect damage. So that's some kind of stuff you can play around with there. I don't think you need as much attack investment. I think you need like this to kill most Pharaoh Seeds. So maybe you could, since you don't since you don't take the life orb, maybe you can invest it in HP or something, or maybe you want to guarantee it if it's really physically defensive, and so on and so forth. But Abra is just an overall really cool Pokemon. It has Calm Mind to boost its special attack and tankiness at the same time. Again, you're not going to rely on that 15 that much, but you know, you could do something with that special defense. If you boost it, like you can run an Eviolite to make it, if you know that's a special attack you're taking, for example, you can kind of run Calm Mind since you're that fast. You can Encore Trap things to make sure that, you know, if they used Stealth Rock against you, then you can make sure to maybe get a free Calm Mind up, or maybe another Psychic, or it gets the really signature move of LC Knockoff as well, which, you know, your attack isn't doing that much, but the whole premise of it is to remove an item, which can be really useful, although you probably have better usage in the tier for that purpose, but it gets that option as well, which is really strong. Not to mention it gets Reflect Light Screen. If you kind of want to go like a Light Clay lead set to set up screens, you can totally do that. It's a fast taunter. That's always appreciated for slow stuff that wants to set up rocks, or, you know, that wants to set up spikes, or want to set up Sticky Web, or want to do all this stuff, because Sticky Web is allowed in Little Cup Draft League, actually, although it's banned on ladder. You can totally do that. You have Momentum. With Teleport, you sacrifice the speed and you let them hit you, hopefully not on the physical side. But you can take that to your advantage and you can teleport out. Abra is very famous for using teleport, as we know in the game series, so you can totally do that. You can do some physical investment stuff with Thunder Punch instead of Fire Punch submission as well. If there's something like a Wingull that's 4 times weak to electricity or something like that, you can do that. Thunder Wave for paralyzing targets is really nice as well. Toxic, not that useful in LC because of the way percentages work. Since we're dealing with such small numbers, you're not going to really ever notice that Toxic's not going to ever get to rack up that much, and games are pretty fast anyway. So you're barely going to see Toxic, maybe for like a slow poke or something with Regenerator, that maybe like a Mienfoo or something, if you don't want to predict on a Psychic if they have Dark types or something like that. You could do that. I've also seen, actually, that Abra can be a decent Scarfer with Trick. I don't remember where I saw it, but there was one time where I saw like Psychic Shadow Ball. I don't know if it was Dazzling Gleam or if it was back in the Gen 7 where it had access to HPs as well, and then Trick. So it did lose access to HPs, which sucks, but it still has great coverage, so not the end of the world. What you can also do if you want to run like a Trick Room set, if you want to run like a surprise set, you could totally set up Trick Room, and even though you're quite fast, you could use the item Room Service, which while Trick Room is active, the holder's speed is lowered, so you actually become faster than things that are scarfed out. Speed you, for example, if they come into range or something and you set up a Trick Room, they're going to be completely caught off guard. You could totally do that. Although there are tons of stuff that are still faster than you in Trick Room, so you have to be a little careful. That's totally an option. You can also attract if you know the opponent is a certain gender, or if you scout that the opponent is a certain gender in game, because most are set to random. So if you see that something that Abra struggles with is gendered, you could also do that. Although it's a bit of a risk if they're not the right gender. You could waste a boost slot like that. Counter, we already talked about with Focus Sash, is a brilliant way to gain a lot of damage like that. And then we have Endure, which is also you could run Berry Juice, which is very common in Little Cup because it restores 20 HP, and you're not going to see that in regular play because nothing has 20 HP. But here, 20 HP is basically its full HP value, which means that when you reach half HP and you don't take that many hits because you're that kind of frail, but you're fast, so you can Endure, which is a priority. And then you can kind of secure yourself back up to HP. You can recycle it, and then you can Calm Mind, and maybe they don't have a dark type, and then you can just rely on Psychic. If they don't have a dark, it's still in a perfect world, right? You can do something like this, for sure. So it has a lot of options with every item, basically. Tons of stuff it can do. It gets Ice Punch as well if there's 4 times weakness to Ice, like Gibble and stuff like that. So there's tons of stuff you can do. You can guard swap if your opponent is super tanky and you're not. You could do that. You could do gravity for your team. If your team uses like Hustle, you can use gravity to increase things accuracy, like Rufflet and Darumaka and Dino and stuff like that. You can do that for sure. There's tons of stuff you can do. Magic Room, that's very, very niche and specific, but you could do that if you know that the opponent has Scarfers, or if you know that they have something that you really don't like in terms of items. If you want to bypass Eviolites, for example, you could do that without having to knock off every single one. So you can totally do that. If you're facing weather, you can set up the opposite weather, so you have both Rain Dance and Sunny Day to kind of play around with for hail and for sun and for sand. You could totally do that for Drillbur and for the Sandshrew Alola and hail, or Bulbasaur and Bellsprout. You could totally just throw them off by presenting the other terrain that they don't like. You could copy an enemy's ability if there's something that throws a lot of water at you and your team don't really like water spam. You could copy an opponent's water absorb if they have it, for example. You could totally do that. Zap Cannon Blunder Policy, you could totally do that. See, if you miss, you gain 2 speed by 2 stages, which basically means you're faster than almost anything. And if you hit, you 100% paralyze the target unless they're like, can't be paralyzed by being electric type or something. But then that cuts their speed in half, pretty much anyway. So you're guaranteed to gain some form of speed control with the set. So you could totally do that. You also have Grass Knot for heavy Pokemon. You just, the tools are endless. You can set up Psychic Terrain if you're the fastest thing on the board, but the enemy has a lot of priority, like Bullet Punch, Mach Punch, Vacuum Wave, Quick Attack, you name it. You set up this terrain, you boost the strength of your own Stab Psychic, and you negate priority for the duration. And maybe it's like a manual terrain, so you can do Terrain Extender, and you can be like a terrain setter for something else that's going to sweep into Psychic Terrain. Totally viable. Substitute bypasses Sucker Punch from especially Pawniard as well, which we see on this set. And Protect is against Trappers, which is really nice. Like it doesn't like Diglett because Diglett is faster at 20, and you're so frail on the physical side that Earthquake is going to drop you pretty much. So you have like Protect for Fake Out Mienfoo to chip your Sash, and then you have it for First Impression Trapinch. That's going to knock you out or bring you to Sash if you have that, because it's bug physical, right? And you don't want to take that hit. So it only works on first turn in, so you can kind of do that and make it go for Faint, or make that 50-50 anyway, and you can totally do that. You also have Foul Play, which uses the opponent's attack stats. You kind of have a really strong Dark type move for strong physical attackers. You could totally do that as well. Charge Beam, if you want to use electric type attack that gives you a chance of hitting even harder, you can do that. So you have tons of options with this Pokemon. It's just the options are endless. You can thief, you can steal an opponent's item, etc. So that's what makes Abra so incredibly strong in this format, in this tier. It's strong on ladder, it's strong in draft, and I highly recommend you pick one up and try one out for yourself. Hopefully your first pick in draft, or maybe on your ladder team. You should definitely consider Abra. But that's going to be it for this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sticking out with me and for, you know, dealing with my hiatus and hopefully all that. But we're back, so we're going to be making some videos here and there. So hopefully you'll stick around and enjoy and subscribe so you get notified on those. I also stream on Twitch TV/Soulblaze, so go follow me and check me out there. We do streams of Nuzlocking every generation at the moment, which is really fun. So go check me out on there. But yeah, this has been your boy Soulblaze, and as always, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.